Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time. The time in which I post my 600 subscriber Q&A video thing, which I was really hoping would be a little longer, but I didn't end up getting that many questions. But you know, that's okay. I still got questions, and I'm going to answer them right here, right now. So strap your seatbelt in and make sure your airbag is functional, and we will go right ahead. The gameplay you're watching in the background is some Eve Valkyrie gameplay. I don't actually know which video it is, but I promise it's Eve Valkyrie. It's, oh man, look at all that space out there and those other ships. It's pretty cool. It is 7 in the morning, 7:06 a.m., and no, I did not wake up. I'm actually still awake. I didn't go to bed, but that's because I thought I was going to do this earlier today, but then I didn't, because a bunch of catastrophic things occurred. Like, okay, so here, I'm going to ramble real quick, okay? Have you guys ever had, like, this thing where, like, your body just decides it's time to go into REM, like, REM sleep, without any, like, transitional fucking sleep beforehand? I forget what the rest of the, what the rest of the terminology is, but basically, I was in my bed, I was going to sleep last night, and then, poof, it was suddenly 6 in the afternoon today. I am not kidding. I got up at, like, 6 p.m., and I had no recollection of ever falling asleep, or I didn't have a dream. Nothing happened. I didn't even feel rested. It was like I just laid down in bed, I blinked, and then it was suddenly 6 p.m. That's what it was like. So, I tried to go back to sleep at 6 in the afternoon, like a not intelligent person, and of course that didn't work, so here I am. It's 7 a.m. now, and everything is destroyed thanks to that. But I don't know if any of you guys have ever had that kind of freaking experience, you know, let me know, because it's happened to me twice now in my life. Once like 10 years ago and another time now. Getting into the questions. First one, actually, the first two I've got from Ian Pitts. He asks me, what is your favorite moment you've had while driving in real life, and what's my favorite moment while I'm driving in games? I'm going to call that two questions, even though they're in the same comment. But oddly enough, I know this guy in real life, and the answer to the first question involves him. But Ian and I, we were at, good God, where were we? We went out to a town that I'm just calling a town. It starts with a W, and we were going to a fair. We went to a fair, and we just kind of like did shit. I don't know if we actually did shit or not. I don't remember, but I do remember this in particular. We ran into a friend of ours named Aaron outside of Dollar General, and we just all kind of chilled for a bit, and there was this crazy like lightning storm happening like off in the distance, and by the time we ended up going home, the lightning had moved like above us. And around that time I was one of like the few people in my friend group that had a car, so I was of course driving some people home, and we had someone else was driving home with us. I forget who it was, but we ended up convoying home. And as we were driving down this long stretch of road, we got hit with one of the most intense rainstorms I have to this day ever experienced in my life. And I actually have footage of this. I recorded it, and I put it on my Instagram story and said something like Pennsylvania weather. If I can dig it up, I'll throw it in the video. But, oh my God, a flash of lightning every 4 seconds. The rain was so hard. We were going like 10 miles an hour in a 60. It was unreal. But it got so bad that we had to pull over, and we just we waited it out. We sat there for maybe like half an hour, just as rain just fucking pummeled us in our vehicles. And by the time it finally cleared up, you know, I dropped off who needed to be dropped off, and I was taking Ian home. And as we were driving down this road, and I should rephrase his question here, or at least rephrase my answer to his question. This isn't necessarily my favorite moment I've had while driving, but I'm gonna answer this because it's the most. I'm gonna give you this answer because it's the most memorable. But as we were driving down a back road, we came across a vehicle that had crashed into a tree, and like the guy was outside of his car, and he was like waving his hands and shit. And I, to this day, feel horrible about this, but I like still kind of like in shock at the fucking rainstorm that just happened, and wanting to just like, my priority was just to get Ian home and whatever. I drove past the dude as he was waving his arms at me, trying to get help, because I figured that, you know, someone else would come along. And that's one of the worst thoughts you can ever have when you're in those situations, because, you know, sure as shit, I could have been that someone to come along. And as we were driving up the road, we immediately got karma'd. And I say we, but I really mean I. I immediately got karma'd because there was a fucking ginormous fallen tree in the road blocking the whole thing. And it had, there was power lines and shit. And, you know, if you know anything about, you know, fallen trees on power lines after big rainstorms, you don't want to touch that because, you know, you could get horribly electrocuted. But me and Ian being, you know, 19, 20 years old, however old we were, I don't know. I was younger than I am now. We are invincible. So, of course, we both get out of my car and we walk up to the stream. We start picking up branches and picking up logs and leaves and, you know, whatever else we can grab to move this shit out of the road. And eventually we did. It took another infinite amount of time. And I once again have pictures and videos of this. So, you know, here they are. But yeah, we got it all out of the way. And as we were driving down the road, I guess our good karma caught up to us for clearing the road of all that shit because a police officer was entering the road from the other end. And I flashed my brights, we flagged him down and pulled over, and we were like, hey, there's someone down the road crashed their car into a tree. And, you know, we obviously were not equipped to help this guy. You know, maybe you could, you know, winch him out or something. You know, I don't know exactly what I said, but it was something along those lines. And he was like, yep, no problem, and drove on down that road and went and helped that guy. At least to this day, I think he did. But I will never forget that day. And it's hilarious that you asked me, Ian, what my favorite moment I've had while driving was, because frankly, it was with you. My favorite moment while driving in a game was actually a little more recent. This was last year, around the time that Grand Theft Auto Online Legacy closed down. After my big, massive session with 5012, we were killing people and causing chaos in a session for 8 hours. That was my Discord, by the way. You can ignore that. I met this dude who invited to our party by the name of Player 2. And, you know, we reminisced for a bit about the good old days of, you know, the Legacy Grand Theft Auto Online. And for one last trip before I got offline, before the servers went down, we took out my white coquette, decked out in, like, white for, like, respect and all that. We were gorgeous. And we drove around the entire map, the whole map, in that coquette. And I mean, yeah, that doesn't seem like such a big deal. You know, people do that all the time in GTA. But, you know, think about this. This was the last day that you could ever do that on the PS3 and Xbox 360 versions of that game. The originals. Online with somebody. And it was with some dude who I had never met in my entire life, as we reminisced about memories that we never even shared with each other from back in the day. We were only just finding out about them at that exact moment. And I, you know, being, you know, what did I listen to? I pulled up Under the Moonlight Sky by a certain band. I don't remember the name of it, but it was a night drive. Pulling it up. It was Under the Moonlight Sky by Night. It's literally called, the band is Night. I was listening to that the whole time, and I just thought it was just a fun experience, all around just very melancholic and bittersweet. Mostly because if you guys don't know the story, my Grand Theft Auto character, I couldn't transfer it to the 4. You know, I had over 4,000 hours on that character. I had spent every day of my life on that game from like the beginning of the beginning of 2013. Good God, from when it came out in 2013, like online, until, you know, fuck God knows when, like mid 2015, where I started to branch out and do other stuff again. But I still played online, like GTA Online, all the way up through like 2017 is the thing. And, oh, fantastic experience. Very, very bittersweet knowing that was the last time I'd ever really get to do that on the 3. And maybe, Ian, who knows? Maybe I'll do it again on the 4 sometime. If you guys want to see some Grand Theft Auto Online, let me know. Because I'm making it a New Year's resolution of mine to drop my grudge with Rockstar and actually give that game a shot again and, you know, restart everything from the ground up. Because it is, you know, in truth, it is a whole new game. So, maybe we'll end up doing that this year. Who knows? And Ian asks a third extra question. He phrased it as such. What is my dream car? And this may come as a bit of a surprise, considering, you know, I've always been driving like muscle cars and shit in games and whatever. And, you know, I have a fucking, you know, I've got a Shelby in real life and all this other stuff. But I'd actually really like to get a Lexus LC500, specifically the hardtop, not the convertible, and in the autumn shimmer, just because I feel like there aren't enough brown cars today. And while brown isn't necessarily like an exciting, loud color like red or orange or yellow or something, I feel like that it stands out enough because it stands out to a point because it's like a lighter brown. Like, you know, it's not like so brown it's nearly black, and there isn't enough of that color. I like that a lot, and I love their interiors. They are works of art, if you ask me. Like I love how all the lines in the interior, how everything kind of meshes together, and the high quality leather. They're just all the materials in general are incredibly high quality. Just go ask Doug DeMuro; it's fantastic. But oh my god, it's great, freaking brilliant. I'd love to get one of those cars. I don't know if I'll ever get a chance to own one. Maybe someday when they're worth $40,000, $30,000, because I know that they're not going to hold their value. But they are gorgeous. I love them so much. I would love one of those. And for bonus points, my other two, I'd also like to get an Alfa 4C, an Alfa Romeo 4C. I have no specific color preference or anything, but I'd just like to get one. And Plymouth Prowler. And it has to be in Prowler purple. That's my only criteria for that. And, you know, the Plymouth Prowler is fucking weird, you know. But it's a good kind of weird. It's a good kind of weird, and I appreciate them. It would not be something practical, but you know what? I'm 21. I don't need practicality in my life. If something is hilarious and stupid and a shit ton of money, I might as well buy it. So, yeah. Moving on. Ben Space asks me, which one is shutting down first, Switchblade or Roller Champions? This is a question that he's been asking me for a little bit, and I'm going to give it to Roller Champions. I think Roller Champions might close down before Switchblade, and the reason I say that is because while Roller Champions is like of a higher budget, was made by more people, and, you know, is newer than Switchblade, I feel like it won't last because Ubisoft has a tendency to give up very easily on its failed projects. Anything that it doesn't deem to be successful, it kills very quickly. Hyperscape lasted, fuck me, it didn't even last 2 years. It lasted like a year and a half. What was it? You know, Ghost Recon Phantoms barely lasted 2 years. You know, that game officially released in 2014. It closed down in 2016. And I loved Ghost Recon Phantoms. I thought it was great. And it's, to this day, I still find it interesting that they even closed it down in the first place, because it had consistently high player numbers. It just didn't rake in a lot of money, and that's what Ubisoft is really concerned with. Now, Roller Champions doesn't really have either. It doesn't really have players, and it doesn't really rake in a lot of money, mostly just because it's just, you know, I had a ramble about this in an Apex stream, my spontaneous Apex stream. It doesn't really do anything unique outside of its gameplay. It has good gameplay, but otherwise it plays the safest route possible in being a copy-paste live service that only adds the absolute necessities and nothing else. It is incredibly shallow beyond the first couple of matches you play. You'll learn very quickly that it just turns into a grind of doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And on top of that, it's the same kind of genre as Rocket League. It's a mobile, like, you know, it's a sports game with, you know, a ball that you throw into a net or a hoop in this game's case, or a ring or whatever the fuck it is, and you do it on roller skates. It's very movement heavy. It's very speed based. You can do all sorts of stunts. It's Rocket League. So why play Roller Champions when you can go play Rocket League? That's what I mean. Or, you know, start BC if you like the older thing. Where Switchblade, on the other hand, yes, Switchblade kind of falls into the same category of not having much to do outside of, you know, once you have all the trophies and your tech level 100, you know, you're probably bored out of your mind with it because you've tried all the vehicles, you know, you've got, you know, a car gold or 2 vehicles gold or, you know, whatever, and, you know, you're satisfied with it. But what it doesn't get any updates either, but I will say this, what Switchblade does have that Roller Champions doesn't is it has a smaller dev team, i.e. Lucid, that was incredibly passionate about what they created. They were very proud of it, and they took a lot of the money they made from it, and they were able to move on to another project, Destruction All-Stars, which, you know, gameplay-wise is fucking fantastic. And sadly, it's not in the best state right now, at least player-based. You know, not many people know about it or play it. But Switchblade gets a constant flow of new players all the time. People are always in the people are always in the free to play section on PS4, and they're always downloading it. Anytime I get on Switchblade, I constantly run into level 1s, level 10s, whatever, just low level people who just downloaded the game to check it out. And while it doesn't make a lot of money, there's still interest in it. There's still interest in what people see it in the store and they want to check it out. And I feel like that people that play Switchblade stick around a lot longer than the people that play Roller Champions, because there's more to do. Roller Champions has that all the movement technique and all the crazy shit you can do, but in the game modes at its core, they boil down to let's throw the ball through the hoop. Switchblade, on the other hand, while it is the same MOBA, it's the same MOBA every time. Destroy the towers, destroy the base. You have 20 vehicles to experiment with, to unlock different abilities with, to try all their supers. Which vehicles are the best at taking down the towers. What if I combine? What if I pick this vehicle with this vehicle? There's so much extra shit to do in Switchblade underneath its core gameplay, and I feel like that's what really gives it the longevity that Roller Champions doesn't have. Because really, all that Roller Champions has, is movement technique, and there's going to come a point where you hit your skill void, and you're not going to be able to progress past what you've learned unless you're learning from somebody who's better than you. That probably sounded really fucking weird because I had to edit that part in because I stuttered super hard and had a brain aneurysm as I was talking. But yeah, that's my answer. I don't think Roller Champions is going to last. I'm going to give it maybe a year. Although, unlike Hyperscape, it's lasted longer. They just released a new season. They're still putting out content for it. So Ubisoft must have some faith in it, more faith than they had in Hyperscape. But Hyperscape, around this time, which was what, 7 months after launch? Yeah, they were done. No more shit. None. We got the last season of Hyperscape, I think 5 months after its launch, and yeah, not doing too hot. But Roller Champions, you know what? Still got some shit going on, but I don't think it's gonna last. Switchblade will probably last as long as there are players. That's what I think, and there are players. And finally, from Game Over Jones, he asked if I've played any new games and what are the best games to recommend at this current time. Man, I've played a lot of games recently, way more than I'm normally comfortable with. I like, something that you guys have probably noticed about me is that I like to be very thorough with the games that I play. I like to play one thing and do absolutely everything in it and not really move on to anything else. I like to only have 1 to 3 games on my plate at a time because I like to experience them to their fullest and master the mechanics and not get distracted by playing 10 games at once where I can't stay consistent because I'm switching games so frequently. That's the thing. But lately, I've been playing a lot of games, mostly just because I feel like I can't find something I truly stick with. And it's been kind of problematic for me. But some new games I've played, and I'm going to take this as new games to me, not necessarily did they just come out, but games that I just recently started playing. A couple months ago, I tried Rogue Company. I have videos for it that I haven't quite posted, but Rogue Company is quite good. It's got a variety of modes. It's got tons of guns and characters with great personalities. In fact, there were times in the tutorial that it was just hilarious. Like, the tutorial's great. I was sold before I was even ready to play like my first match. Like, that's how good it was. Nice visuals, good maps. It's a good team game, really. If you want a good PvP team experience, Rogue Company is out there. I can say that, for certainty. I've been playing Babylon's Fall. It's shit, exactly like everyone else has been saying about it. Although I will say this, I have 2 positives too. The boss fights are really good, and the soundtrack is phenomenal. That's it. That's where my positives end for Babylon's Fall. Other than that, the visuals terrible. The combat not platinum. It's slow. It's monotonous. It's all the enemies are sponges basically. You're not going to be. It's catered for 4 players. It's scaled for 4 players. All of the levels are scaled for 4 players, and you're going to be constantly running through your stages solo on that game because how many people are playing it on Steam right now? Here we go. Babylon's Fall, Steam charts. I bet it's going to be either 0 or 1. Yes. There we go. That's the one. Yeah, nobody fucking plays this game. Nobody. It sucks. The level design is repetitive and boring. The weapons are repetitive and boring. You don't start unlocking cooler mechanics until you're like 10 fucking hours into the game. And, you know, let me tell you, I'm insane, so I'm fine with this. But most people, I promise, are going to quit the game before they have 10 hours into it because they're bored out of their fucking mind. That's what I'm going to say. Don't play this. Don't. Especially because now they're closing it down, like, after less than a year. It didn't even last a year. That's how bad this game is. Don't play this. Awful. The worst. But because I'm stupid, I want the platinum trophies because they're going to be rare because of how short the game's lifespan was. What else did I do? I finally played Driver San Francisco this year. You know, I gotta pull up my trophies. Why don't we do that? Why don't we pull up my trophies so I can just list off some games? How about we do that? So yeah, I played Dirt 4. Dirt 4 is a lot of fun. I didn't play Dirt 5, and I didn't play the other one, Dirt Rally. I didn't play that. I played Dirt 4 because it was the only one I didn't own, and I was like, well, I might as well just own this. So then I suddenly owned it, and I put it in my console, and I played it. It was a good time. Good game. Shell Shock Live, which I've only played a handful of times. I'm very new to that. Like, oh my god, I've less than maybe 2 hours on it. I'm very new to it, but Shell Shock Live, started playing that. 7 Days to Die, I started playing, which I've got roughly 10 hours on now. 7 Days to Die is a load of fun, especially with people. Play it with friends. The Callisto Protocol, I got that one on launch day, and I've already finished it. And I will say this. And this is, you know, bear with my unpopular opinion, because I know a lot of people were disappointed with this game. While I don't think it's as good as Dead Space, it's not as good as Dead Space, I think it deserves more credit than it got, specifically in the combat side of things. People were really, really, really frustrated with its combat. I'm gonna quote a YouTuber on this, but its combat is sort of like a rhythm game. You're gonna be dodging left and right in the sequence that of left and right. That's the sequence. You can't dodge in the same direction twice, and I feel like that's where like a lot of people messed up. They either weren't dodging at the right moment, or they weren't going left to right. You can dodge, get in a couple of hits, block, dodge again, however you want to approach the situation, and you can get in as many hits as you need to handle on whatever, or as you need to on whatever enemy you're fighting, basically, right? It's very timing based as well. You can't just like hold the stick down in a certain area. It's nice that it's based on timing, and sometimes there are times where you're going to get fucking obliterated because there's going to be 2 or 3 enemies in the situation. Now that was in whatever instance you're in. That was one other thing that I heard people complain about, is that if there's too many enemies in a fight, you're going to get overwhelmed and you're going to die. That might be the case, yes, but that's why you're given other tools to work on them. If there's 3 or 4 enemies in an area, you're not going to want to use your melee the whole time. Don't do that. You're an idiot. Pull out your guns. You have guns for a reason. You have the GRP, the big magnetic glove. You can pick up enemies and throw them. If you have the upgrade that lets you do damage, you can do that. You can throw them into those spike walls to instantly take them out. That's good too. It gives you room to breathe with the tools that they provide you with. It provides you with a lot of tools to kind of work your way through the enemies and the kind of heavy gameplay that it, provides you with. I will say this, the game certainly, while it has a great atmosphere, it's not that scary. For a horror game, it's not really that horrific. It relies a lot on cheap jump scares, and they really don't get you. They really don't. But otherwise, it's solid. It's got a good story. Jacob, their main character, he's a little on the weaker side of things, at least for me. And some of the characters are really, but otherwise, it's not the end of the world bad. It's a good game. Play it. That's all I gotta say. Callisto's up there. I think that was one of the better games I've played this year. Bless Unleashed, I finally got around to that, and fucking hell, that game is phenomenal. It is fantastic. There's an endless amount of shit to do in that game, so much so that I play it on PC now. there's 5 classes. They're all so different. You can do so much shit with them. The environments are so cool. The story is rich, and there's a lot of like lore behind what you're doing. And Bless Unleashed, good. It's fucking Bless Unleashed, bro. It's pretty rad and gnarly. I gotta say that. What else did I fucking throw into here? I don't know. That's all the games that that's like a lot of the new games that I've played lately. That's not all the new games that I've played this year, but it's some that I've played lately. That was a bit of a ramble, but it is what it is. I'm gonna throw around the 2 that I normally recommend at any given time. Anytime anybody at all, period, asks me for a game recommendation, I always throw these 2: The Long Dark and Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Hellblade is a single-player, like linear dark fantasy game. It is based around this character, of course, named Senua, and she is like a schizophrenic warrior who is traveling to Norse hell to get her lover's soul back, which is the most metal thing I have ever fucking heard in my entire life. Just, but essentially, not only does the game have fantastic environments, it has great combat, it has good boss fights. The story is like brilliantly fucking executed. Like the way that the story is presented is just fantastic. It is presented in the way that you, the player, are a voice in Senua's head that is joining her on this journey to hell, along with a bunch of other voices that, she hears because she's schizophrenic, right? So not only do you get the story in the sense that Senua might be interacting with the environment or objects or characters, etc., like Druth, she is interacting with the voices in her head, and one of the voices in her head is interacting with you, narrating everything that might not be directly apparent, which I think is fantastic for people who lose their interest in trying to find hidden small details in worlds to pick up on subtle cues and shit. It is fantastic. And on top of it, there's the whole, once again, the schizophrenia thing. In combat, if you're wearing surround sound headphones, you will hear the voices that Senua hears, and they'll try to like lift you up, or they'll beat you down. Like if you take multiple hits, they'll talk about how you're gonna die, or you're not doing well enough, or you're a failure at what you're doing. They'll try to, it's just very immersive, is what I'm trying to say. They'll try to, get into your head. Oh, now you're the schizophrenic one. I don't know, but I can always recommend Hellblade to people. It's great. And it has a sequel now, too. That's sadly Xbox exclusive, and I will forever hurt somebody for that. But I have Hellblade gameplay on my channel, actually. I'll put it in the description. It's the boss fight with Valravn, which is one of the first 2 bosses you fight, depending on which route you take. But it's got good puzzle mechanics. The Valravn puzzles, like in the intro, like I said, are great. They're fucking awesome. And then you have games like The Long Dark. The Long Dark I like to recommend to people because, while yes, it's a survival game, and I know that's been done like 1,000 times in the world, it's got to be one of the most unique survival games I've ever fucking come across, like, ever. I've been playing it for maybe 3 or 4 years now, actually, yeah. And essentially what it is it's set within this region called Great Bear, where this kind of fucking geomagnetic storm occurs, and you play as this guy named Mackenzie, or you're not playing as anybody at all. You're just playing the fucking just general infinite survival thing, and you crash your plane into this region, and you have to survive and deliver this medicine that your wife is trying to deliver to an area. And that's all that I'm going to talk about for the story, right? But I like The Long Dark because it's not like you're surviving zombies. You're not surviving, this catastrophic fucking like world-ending disease, or demons are invading the planet or something, and there's not, it's not like a survival game like Rust where the main enemies are other players. It's a wilderness survival game in a harsh, frozen condition. Like, oh my god. So you have to, on top of that, right, get this, I think it has to be one of the most hauntingly lonely games I've ever played. And, there's Minecraft, right? Minecraft is fantastically lonely in single player, but, like, there's nothing more atmospheric than walking down, like, an abandoned highway in heavy snowfall. You can't see a damn thing. you know, the fucking Aurora Borealis is above you. And I should also point out that no technology doesn't work in this game. You know, all of it's been completely wiped out by the geostorm. But when the Aurora Borealis comes out, things sort of work. They don't work at their best, but they work to an extent. But as you're going down the street and you look up, there's the Aurora Borealis, and all the headlights on the cars are flickering, and radios are, you know, trying to pick up signals that don't exist because, you know, there's no more radios and whatever. And, you know, your flashlights are flickering, and there's a pack of fucking wolves off to the left of you that's been hunting you for miles and shit, and all you hear is just this rush of wind, and your character's freezing, and, you know, you're losing health, and it's just, oh my god, I don't know. It's such an experience. It's an experience like no other. The art style is gorgeous. The sounds are fantastic. It's just an all-around great game, especially like if you have no idea what you want to play. I promise you will get lost in this thing for hours. It is a great survival game. Those are my general recommendations for you, because I know you really like your shooters. I'm gonna throw Rogue Company at you. Play Rogue Company. It's because I know that you, Game Over, really like your team games. You really like team play and communication in games. You really like to fucking destroy people, and I promise that Rogue Company is a game that you can very much do that in. It's free, which seems to be the case with a lot of online games these days. But, you know, it's got good, you know, it's got all sorts of mechanics that make a great team game. It's got more than one game mode too. Whoa, which seems to be a rarity these days for whatever reason. But it's got like a zone capture mode where you try to capture and hold a zone. It's like Hardpoint from Call of Duty. You know, there's shit like that. I don't actually know all the game modes because I don't have very much time with the game, but the time that I do have with it, it was well more than enough to recommend it to people. So I'll throw that recommendation out. Go for it. Play Rogue Company. It's great. Anything else? It's difficult. It really is difficult to recommend games to people now because, like, I mean, I've been playing so much shit, and there really aren't like a lot of. I know you're definitely a shooter person, and there aren't really a lot of shooters to throw around these days. That's kind of like a sad thing. I guess I don't really know how it's doing because I haven't been playing it lately. But I mean, Splitgate's still a thing. Hawken is still a thing. You know, those are both shooters as well. You know, they're great. Hawken's really interesting because it's a mech game. It's like Titanfall, but there's no foot combat. It's all in the mechs. There's a lot of like strategy behind, like, you know, the combat you're getting involved in. You know, how like health management and what combos do the most damage and shit like that. It's you know, it's good fun. And I mean, of course, on top of that, you know, I'll of course throw out Titanfall 2. I'll throw out PlanetSide 2. You know, those are a lot of fun as well. And maybe Insurgency Sandstorm, which I haven't actually played Insurgency Sandstorm, so I feel like that's a bit of a weird recommendation, but I have played Insurgency. And I know that they're very similar. And Insurgency is like a hardcore kind of milsim sort of PvP shooter where everything is like super hyper realistic and like the smallest of details matter. Great team game. All the guns will kill you in like one shot. Terrifying. It's a scary fucking game. So yeah, I'll throw those out there too. So yeah, I think that about does it. That's all the questions. And this video's, I've been recording for 40 minutes. It's probably going to be shorter than this because I'm going to have like cuts and shit in it. But yeah. I really hope you guys enjoyed these questions. I kind of dragged them on for a bit because I wanted to make this video like a little more long and special for 600 fucking subscribers. Like, thank you guys so much. That's crazy to me. I never thought that we'd make it this far, especially because I just, you know, thought I'd give up on YouTube or something. But, you know, thank you for asking the questions. I really appreciate it. You know, it was a lot of fun to make this video and fun to talk about things. Just kind of like have like, you know, a conversation with my viewers. That's nice, and get to show off some Eve Valkyrie gameplay. Which reminds me, I've got 2 videos for that are coming up soon. Yeah. I got a couple of other random projects to finish before I head back to college on January 10th. We're gonna see if I can't get them done and out. And I think that about does it. Yeah. We filmed the Reese today, and I'll have that video up shortly, either right before this one or right after it. And, yeah. Appreciate this. This was pretty awesome. Thanks for listening, and I'm gonna go to bed.